Hey everyone, it's Matt Krebin with Talk Shop. Excited to bring another segment of my Industry Insiders interview. Today, I'm happy to be joined by Rubin Rosalez. Rubin is going to introduce himself here in a few minutes, but I'm happy that he's decided to give some of his time because I think he's going to share some great insight for today's youth, high school and college-aged students. So, without further ado, Rubin, thanks for taking the time and joining me. And if you don't mind, just give a quick recap, maybe your title and maybe what you were doing and who you do it with.
Okay, perfect. My name is Rubin Rosalez. I actually my career job is with the United States Department of Labor. I'm a regional director for the Western states. So every state west of Idaho, California, Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, as well as the Pacific Islands and the territories, Guam, Saipan, American Samoa. Those are all my territory that I supervise and work for the United States Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division, and we do a labor enforcement. And so that's my career job, and I've been doing that for 32 years. I started right out of college, actually, at 22 years old. Right after I graduated, I went into the government and never looked back. I have found my career job that I love. I love the mission of the agency. But in addition, I've been involved in the community throughout my years. I founded a youth program here in Northern California called Future Leaders of America, Latino Youth Leadership Program. That's been in existence since 1991 in Northern California, and we've been operating ever since. A couple of thousand kids have gone through the program and teaching them leadership skills and communication skills, as well as I was on the school board here in my own town. Actually, I live back in my hometown of Pittsburgh, California now, where I graduated from Pittsburgh High School, and I went on to college to the University of Pacific. In fact, I have my logo here. I went there for 4 years, and I went straight into work for the government. So when I came back home, I started getting involved in the community, and I actually ran for school board. And I got elected 3 times to the school board. I served 9 years on the school board. And as my career responsibilities were elevated and I became a regional manager, it got harder to stay on the board. So I had to step away from that level of activity of political involvement, and I stuck with just the career stuff. And I'm still on some boards in the community. And doing some helping with kids and youth primarily. So that's kind of who I am. I'm married, got 4 kids, and it's real great to be back in my hometown. I've moved around with my career. I've moved around California, but now I'm back in the Bay Area.
Nice. And hey, nothing wrong with shouting out to your UOP Tigers, right? Why not?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And for
They don't have
dramatic
football
effect,
team anymore, though.
yeah. And for dramatic effect, folks, Ruben is being pretty humble. I know that he's not going to say it, but he's a pretty big deal in terms of what he's done in his 32 years, his career. We actually we don't know each other. We just met, but we do have a mutual friend who's kind of giving me some insight. But for dramatic effect, this is my show notes. These are all of his accolades, people. There's a lot that I could share, what he's done with former President Obama. There's lots of accolades, but I would probably take the whole show to go through that. So impressive background, to say the least. Let me just start with this, Ruben. Maybe there was some flashpoint moment. Could have been when you were in high school, or maybe at UOP, or when you started your career, where it just maybe dawned on you. You said, look, the ability to communicate to a wide variety of people with clarity and confidence is an important skill for me to have. Is there a moment in time that you can think, yeah, this is where it really kind of hit me?
Yeah, actually, at a very early age, in high school, I had some really good mentors, and we had some issues at the school that were involved with the students, and we actually had a student walkout at that time. If you could imagine that happening in today's world with all the protests going
Right.
on in the early '80s. This is around 1981. We had some issues on campus, and I was one of the students that were vocal about what was going on campus, and I realized that communication was very key and very important. I was communicating a lot with adults at that time. I was only 15 years old and having to communicate a lot with school board members and politicians in the community. It hit me that I need to really know what I'm saying. I need to be polished. I need to understand what I'm saying. And that carried on for the rest of my high school career. I stayed involved in the community and stayed involved in school. And then I carried it on to college. Then I realized when I was in college that, I started doing some internships. And that's when it really hit me about how it connected to the work world, that having the ability to communicate, do it well, be on point, to be honest, to be truthful. That's all those things I learned pretty early because I was sort of forced into it.
Got it. No, that's all part of what you hear so often. Like, hey, be your authentic self. I just said be genuine. It means the same thing, but
Absolutely.
You mentioned one thing in there, Ruben, that kind of caught my attention, and I wanted to just touch on it. It's not typically on my list of questions, but I was listening to you and I wanted to tag in on this. But you said, look, I've had some early mentors in my career, and I actually, go through my talk shop programs when I work with college students is to look, it's good to get some influencers, align yourself with people that can be your mentor, that can give you that guidance. But it's not necessarily, they said, well, how do I do that? How did you secure your mentor? Because a lot of people think, you don't go out and ask someone, hey, will you be my mentor? It just sort of happens organically. But maybe I'd like to see if you can add something to that for how it's worked for you and maybe how you've mentored others.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a good point about how it happens organically, and I'll end it with a little point I want to make about the youth program that I started. As kind of sometimes
Sure.
it doesn't happen organically for certain individuals, but that's exactly what happened. In that someone saw something in me I didn't see in myself, and I had a particular teacher there in high school that literally would stop me in my tracks from speaking in the classroom. He'd make me stand up and speak. 'Cause I'm a short guy. I'm not very tall. But he wanted me to be stood. He wanted me to stand up. He wanted me to be heard, and he'd make me speak up. But I was the only person in the classroom. He would stop the classroom, make me stand up and speak. And he told me later on in life, he says, I saw something in you. I had to bring it out of you, and it worked. And it was embarrassing at the time. Later in life, 4 years, it ended my 4 years. He became one of my best friends as a teacher, and as I was trying for college and all the letters of recommendation for scholarships and all that stuff, he steered me in the right direction. And he was actually what they call the student leadership advisor on campus, which I didn't know at the time. And so, it was somebody that saw something in me, and he kind of started picking at me to get me to do things. And I responded. But I noticed that not everyone has that opportunity. And that's kind of why I started the youth program, is that not everyone gets a mentor. Not everyone understands the value of that. And so that's the youth program is about touching kids and trying to get them to see themselves as communicators and leaders in the community.
I want to segue into the youth program that you are part of, but just one quick question before we go there is, because again, I always encourage and advise people that I work with, which again are college students, to start easy with family members, whatever their family sphere might look like. Maybe they have an aunt and an uncle. Maybe there's a mom and her dad in the picture, and also maybe there's friends of theirs, parents. You just start with that small circle. Those people already know who you are from a character standpoint, and they will trust you. And you, for the most part, they should trust them. But it may not be just who they know. It might be, not just them, but who they know. So that I always guide people, start small first, but that's how you get comfortable with learning how to connect and network with people. One of them may turn out to be a mentor or an influencer. I don't know if you would agree or disagree, or maybe you've got something you'd want to add to that before I take it in direction.
No, absolutely. There are nuggets next to us all the time, golden nuggets next to us, and we don't realize it. It could be a parent, an aunt, an uncle, or a relative. Depending on your upbringing and where you come from, you may have many of those. You may be limited, but absolutely. And I think what also in our communities, even though they may not be a city councilman, or they might not be an elected official, there are individuals that go to work every day and come home and are really thirsty to pass on their knowledge about what they've learned in life. And there could be your next door neighbor. And I've had a few of those too, as I had neighbors that saw that I was interested in going to college. Of course, I'm like many folks in my community. I'm one of the first ones to go to college in my family. So going to college in my neighborhood was a big deal. The day I left for UOP, which is only 45 minutes away from Pittsburgh, the whole block came out to see me off, to see me drive away in my little truck full of stuff to go to college. It was a big deal for everybody. So, and all those folks played a role in my life and mentored me and gave me advice. So yeah, there are people right next to us that'll often share with you their experiences, and we got to capitalize on those too.
Absolutely. And I always encourage people, look, be prepared, for when someone puts their arm around you hypothetically, and said, look, tell me a little bit about what you're looking to do. You should be prepared for that. It's kind of the talk shop premise. It's a piece of it in terms of a career search, but how do you articulate who you are today and maybe where you want to go? What are some things you're interested in? So be ready to answer those questions when you connect with others. So I want to move to the youth program that you've been part of, because a big piece is really kind of what we were just talking about is, how do you network with people? How do you get prepped to have that informational interview or an internship interview, a volunteer interview, or a real job interview? A big piece of that is how you present yourself in a live format, your own brand. Is there anything that you can share? I know you've been with the Department of Labor for 32 plus years. If you want to use yourself as an example, or maybe some of the youth you've worked with, when it comes to networking, I think there's a little apprehension with today's youth on how to do that and the importance of doing it. So, are you seeing any kids in your community that maybe are doing something well that you could share, or maybe there's an area that they could do
Yeah,
better?
no, I can do both from the community perspective and my professional world, how I see it too. But first, from the community perspective, there's a saying is, the world makes way for a person who knows where they're going. And that comes from the way you carry yourself, what you tell people about yourself, you tell people about your goals, where your interests are. You'll begin to see that people will see that, and they begin to open doors for you based on what you tell them and how you portray yourself. So I think it's you need to not, I know it's hard for some folks to be, they're shy, maybe introverts, but you need to at least let people know. Let individuals know what your interests are and what your goals are, and you'll see that the people around you will pick up on that, and they'll begin to open doors or introduce you to people, and then you need to begin to maintain those networks. In today's world with social media, you probably got connections to people across the U.S. and across the world that you probably don't know that well. They're your friends on Facebook, but you don't know them that well.
Right.
But there's still a connection there, and maybe you got to think about who they are and letting people know. Right now, it's so much easier than it was when I was a kid to capitalize on the networking. Someone that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, you can call them probably the same day, whereas it probably would take a few weeks to a month to connect with somebody like that in my era. So I would think that what I've noticed is that the information flow is quicker with the students nowadays, that when they connect with somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, it happens almost within the same day or instantaneously. And those students that show me as a coordinator of the youth program, that they are interested in connecting, I find a way to help, because I know they're interested and I want to help them. So I'll go and find that person in the professional world, whether it's someone in law enforcement or somebody in the financial district or somebody in retail that I know, to connect with whatever their interests are. Once they let me know, but they got to kind of just be out there and let people know that what their interests are, and you'll see people will come and help. It's a natural instinct, I think, for people to want to do that and connect you. In the professional world,
taking the initiative is huge. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but having today's youth take initiative to reach out to someone like yourself or me or anyone for that matter. I always tell people, look, if you've reached out to me, I will absolutely make the time. For example, today I just got an email blind, don't know this person at all. He's a student up in Gonzaga University up in Spokane, up here in the state of Washington, reached out to me from scratch. I will absolutely give that person a call back today. He's going to probably be surprised that I'm going to pick up the phone and not email him back. But you're right. There's, people can connect so easily, more easy than in our era, for sure. By the twitch of their thumbs, they can be connected to someone around the corner, or as you said, around the globe. But I'm also seeing, and I'm curious as to what you see. There is a little apprehension, or maybe a lot of apprehension around these kids today. I'm sorry, I shouldn't call them kids. The emerging adults with picking up the phone and calling you, or when they are with you face to face, to be able to clearly, confidently articulate who they are and what they're looking for. Even just asking a simple question. Now, that's not everybody. That's not fair. But there is a high level of that. And I'm just curious, are you seeing that? And if so, how do you guide the students that you work, in your program, the youth program?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there are so many vehicles nowadays that are not personal, but they connect you to people, whether it's Facebook or Twitter and all these other social media things, these other platforms for communicating that are not person-to-person contact. It's too easy nowadays to jump to those and make communication. And so I think what happens is the individuals that rely on that too much, they don't sharpen their skills of face-to-face conversation. And I can tell you, in the professional world and working with the government, it's that added face-to-face communication or that one-on-one communication. Picking up the phone, to me, is just as face-to-face nowadays than it was back then. So I think what we need to know is that people that are comfortable doing so, they're going to have an added advantage, especially with people. I'm a decision maker in the government, and if you come and talk to me, and I can see that you're comfortable with your communication skills, and I'm about to make a selection, and I'm about to hire somebody or promote somebody, and I can see you're very good at the technical stuff. You're probably good at social media and all that. But when it's one-on-one and we're talking to each other, you're having a hard time. I will choose the person that's much more comfortable with their communication skills, because now I need you to be a leader. I need you to be an example. I'm hiring you to set the example or hire other people. So it's the people skills that really drive home who I select at the end of the day. You know, good technician, the people skills will get them more points. They'll outlast them.
And that's exactly why we bring people on like you to share that. I can say that until I'm blue in the face, but if they hear from professionals outside of myself, and that's exactly why, not to plug Talk Shop, but that's exactly why Talk Shop's in place, is to help kids that do need that help in developing, because you mentioned it, and especially now more than ever, the job market for college grads is obviously severely impacted with everything that's going on in our world today. The skill of having a face-to-face conversation, even if I'm looking at the camera instead of the screen, little subtleties, that will be a competitive advantage for today's youth. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll give you a quick example. We're hiring, in the government right now. For any one position that we have 500 to 1,000 applicants. It's all online nowadays, right? We can get many, many applicants. So those have to be weeded out and pared down. And finally, we get to actual interviews. And of course, in today's world, we're doing virtual interviews like this, but there's still this communication piece. And that is usually the difference in the hiring. At the end of the day, we're about to make a selection. When resumes are matched up against each other, it's this interaction right here that makes the clear difference. And so I want to drive that home, because I think it's very important that if you get to that interview, understand that that is going to be the deal maker or breaker for you, because your paper screening has already happened. You've already made it to that level. So it's very important that you understand the value of that and go in there with your game face.
I don't know if this is what you were saying. This is just what I'm going to say. But in my humble opinion, people hire the personality. They're not going to hire the resume. Yeah, the resume is going to get you through that first screen. Right. But I don't want to say that's what you're just saying. I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
No,
all I'm going to say is I am nodding in complete agreement with you on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, Rubin, I want to just ask you a question about networking and interviewing. It's a two-part or it's a one-part. I'll let you decide. But I just want to get an example if there's something, or a few different cases, or just one that's jumped out to you in terms of someone's reached out to me, whether it was over LinkedIn, email, phone call, US letter, and they just wanted to get your attention. They wanted to get on your radar to network with you. That's one scenario. And what was it about it in terms of how they reached out to you that caught your attention? The second piece is the same concept, but in an interview. Someone's got the chance to meet with you. What is it that captures your attention? I'll let you decide, or maybe you'd be open to answering both.
I'll start with first, and it's happened recently. It's like similar to you. Someone contacted, you're going to call them today. At the most communication I have in any given day right now in this current environment is email. You can be guaranteed if you email me, I'm going to read it today. Because I get hundreds of emails per day, but I'll read them every day because I want to stay on top of my work. So if I do get something from someone, which I have, they'll send me a little quick note, nothing elaborate, just saying, hey, someone, well, just like yours, I met somebody who knows you. I want to talk to you. Can you please give me a call? I want to talk to you about something, and I'll give you a call back or email you back and set up a time for the future. I think it's important that you do that. So right now, I think the best mechanism is to find out what different forms of communication that individual is using. In my case, a lot of it's email right now. I'm not on social media as much. I do it in my leisure time, so it's not part of my regular day. So it's mainly email and phone. So I definitely, that's the way that you need to make those contacts with someone, because I hate to say it's generational, and I am older. I wouldn't say old. I'm seasoned, but I know because of my seasoning. I'm apt to use certain platforms more than others. And so you need to know that. So if your audience is someone like me, you probably want to resort to something like the email or the phone call to leave me a message. And it's more likely I'll get back, especially if you call me, because I get very few voicemails anymore in the world. If you call me, I'm like, oh, that's something special. Somebody actually called me. Mm-hmm. And so that's definitely something I would recommend.
And what about when someone's got the chance to meet with you face to face, whether it's an informational interview or it's a real interview? What is it that inspires you? What is it about a candidate that comes in and just, again, captures your attention, makes you say, okay, makes you pause to say, I want to hear and learn more about this particular person?
Well, it's kind of the individual that really knows what they want to do. Someone who's just searching and they're kind of floundering around, I could tell. I could tell. But if you really want to come work for the government, for example, or you want to get involved, work in the youth program, if this is where your passion is, it's going to show. So if you're going to present yourself in front of folks, I would limit yourself to presenting yourself to those areas that you really want to be involved in. Because if you're there just to try and get some experience or trying to get, exposure, or maybe it's not your career job, but you want to do something, it's going to show. And because I recommend you be honest, right? So it's going to show. And so the individuals, like I say, the ones that are passionate about being there, the ones that want to come work and do enforcement in the government and do investigations, and they're passionate about helping people and enforcing the law and creating a level playing field for employers. You could tell they've done their homework too. And so that I look for that. I look for the passion to come through. I look for the interest, the focus. Those all make a difference to me. And I've been wowed by informational interviews. People who say, I just want to pick your brain, Rubin, about what's goes on in the government, because I never heard of you guys before. I just want to know what's going on. And by the end of the interview, I'm so wowed by them. I put them on a list. I go, next time I have an opening, I'm going to start calling these folks. And I have a list. I literally have a list of individuals that I keep. And every time we have an opening, I shoot them an email. Hey, I remember you, so it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
I'm a huge fan of the informational interview for that very reason. It takes the pressure off both the candidate, for sure, and perhaps the person that they want to meet with, you in this case.
Yeah.
But a good conversation can happen. And if they do the right steps and capture your attention, you're just going to put them on your list, like you said. So I love that. Rubin, we're on the home stretch. Is there any one bit or two bits of nuggets that maybe was imparted on you somewhere in your career? Could be something recent, could have been something way back. I'll let you decide. That's just always stuck with you, that's resonated, that you're willing to share to the next generation as it relates to the job search, the networking process, anything that you can share that comes to mind?
Yeah, and I would say it was my personal experience and I carried this throughout my whole career, in that you need to be patient. It's under you. You may have just graduated. I know it's just May and June just passed. This was just graduation time. So I graduated in May. I didn't start working until November. Now that sounds like a short period of time, but I know when you're in college, as soon as you hit the streets after you got your diploma, you're feeling like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to be for the rest of my life? And you're thinking you have to choose that career. But be patient, because especially in today's world, there's a lot of things happening in today's world. There's a lot of folks out there that are competing for the same positions. You just got to be patient and keep trying, and don't give up. Every time you get a no, that should make you stronger, not make you weaker. Don't get down by that. It should make you stronger. Brush yourself off. Tweak your resume, tweak your presentation, tweak your interview skills, and go to that next one. It's very important. I did several before I start with the government. I just happened to find the one that I fell in love with, and I never looked back. But I see folks that work for me that aren't in that role, and so what I've seen over the years, so I would recommend be patient. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. And you could, like you said, dust yourself off and move on. But don't feel like you need to rush into the very first thing just because it's something. I know in today's economy, you want to work, you got to pay bills. I get that. But when you're trying to find that career job that's going to be your career forever, which is rare in today's world, they don't stay with the same job very often, and that's understanding. That's understandable. But I would say, just don't beat yourself up so much if you have a few failures. Just consider them learning opportunities and make yourself stronger.
Hey, Rubin, I always like to give someone an opportunity, in this case, you, if there's anything you'd like to promote, maybe it's the youth program that you're part of or anything else, and maybe nothing, and that's fine too. But I always like to give someone the opportunity to share a blog, a website, an initiative that they're part of, that they're excited about. If there's anything you'd like to share and point people to, I want to make sure I give you that opportunity.
Yeah. And so I'm not here as I mentioned earlier in our preview, that I'm not here as an official from the government. However, I would for those of you that are interested in a government career, you could go to usajobs.gov, and you can see the jobs around the United States, and you can filter it, and you can set it up so you get emailed the positions that you're interested in. And so I would recommend folks do that. A government job is a very secure job. It's a nice job. There's the stereotype of government employees as lazy is wrong. It's not true. We work very hard. There's a lot of things going on in the world that we take care of. So I would recommend you at least have an eye out for that. The second thing would be the Future Leaders of America. It's a FLA East Bay. youth.org, and that is the Future Leaders of America Youth Leadership Program that we started here in Northern California in 1991 for 8th and 9th graders. So they come into our program in the 8th and 9th grade when they're making key decisions about their life, and they stay with us in the program throughout high school and in college. So I would recommend, if you're interested in either being a mentor in our program, helping out, or if you have a younger brother or sister that you want to turn on to the program, please contact us.
Excellent. Rubin Rosalez, highly decorated, 32 years in a career that I can't mention. Just kidding. The Department of Labor, obviously some great involvement in your community. I had a feeling that you'd share some great insight. You certainly didn't disappoint. It's been fantastic to hear from you and your background. I think we're in complete agreement on a lot of fronts here. So want to thank you again for taking the time and sharing your insight with today's college students. For anyone that found this video insightful or valuable to you, I encourage you to share it. Why not? Sharing is caring. Why not we do that? So go ahead and share the video if you're interested. Rubin, appreciate you again taking the time and chatting with me right here on Talk Shop.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate what you do. You're doing good work. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that.
All right.